Hello guys, what is up? It's a J&J Hockey Podcast. I'm Joshua.
I'm Josiah.
And we have a big podcast planned today, because the Stanley Cup Final has been determined. We got Stars from the West, Lightning in the East. Did anyone think this matchup was going to happen?
Maybe. I'm not sure. Tampa Bay, yes, but not really the Dallas Stars, because the Dallas Stars are, the Dallas Stars.
I feel like Dallas was they were technically the underdog, quote unquote, in every round they played in, despite finishing third in the West. If you think about it, most people were favored, I think, Calgary over Dallas in the first round. And then, obviously, everyone favored, Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
And I think most people favored Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
And people are favoring Tampa, but, I mean, Dallas has taken down some pretty good teams here. So, I don't know.
It's Tampa Bay's year.
Yeah, I want it to be Tampa Bay's year, too, because it's ever since, 2015 or something, they've just been absolutely insane. They could have easily won the Cup, any one of those years, and they didn't.
5 years in a row.
Yeah, so I feel like this is the year. And it's crazy that they're finally doing it this year, There's no Stammer in the lineup. Point is just playing absolutely insane. Victor Hedman, I just found out, he tied the record with Paul Coffey with 9 goals. The most goals from a defenseman before the Stanley Cup Final. So Hedman's been playing absolutely insane. But let's go into the matchups themselves. So, offense, I don't think this is I don't think this is a debate or anything. It's the Lightning.
It's Dallas.
Oh, yeah,
obviously.
obviously.
It's Tampa Bay.
Yeah, obviously it's Dallas. Yeah. So, even with Stammer injured, Point is playing insane. They got Cirelli, who scored a massive goal for them, obviously winning that game against the Islanders. They just got so many weapons up front. Kucherov's playing really well. And, I don't know if Stammer could come back. I don't know what his timeline is. Because teams don't really release that stuff in the playoffs. But we know that, if Stammer could come back, that'll just improve that offense even more. Dallas has got a pretty solid offense that is actually playing surprisingly well. Pavelski is coming big for them, 9 goals in 21 postseason games, which is pretty good. And then you got Denis Gurinov, who ties that. He's 9 as well. The big line, Ben, Sagan, and Radulov is all playing well. Of course, Radulov scored that winner to send Vegas home.
Bye-bye, Vegas.
Yeah, bye-bye, Vegas.
Have fun playing golf.
Yeah. So, and Dallas actually, they managed to outscore, Colorado, which was a super high-scoring team. It was a high-scoring matchup. Of course, Colorado had lost its starting goalie. They didn't really have a really good goalie in net or anything.
Well, they don't have a starting goalie anyways.
Well, yeah, but Grubauer was injured. So...
And I think Frank Cruz was also.
Yeah, which, you don't really want to be putting in your third goalie, whoever that is, in there.
Yeah, Hutchinson.
Yeah, ooh, yeah. So, you can understand, I don't know if you can really base it off of that.
He was the Leafs backup. There's a reason the Leafs went out and got a new backup.
Yeah, because after the second round, the Stars were actually the second highest team, I think, second highest scoring playoff team in the West, behind, ironically, Colorado. But Colorado came by it honestly, I feel. Dallas didn't as much. They were facing Hutchinson, who... I used to like Hutchinson, but he's not an NHL goalie anymore. So, I don't know how much you can put into that. They didn't score a lot against Vegas. It was because, I kind of feel bad for Vegas. They really need to fix that offense up. They're getting shut down. Peter DeBoer, their Vegas' coach, just, he attributed it to actually his offense being rattled by the play of Demko in round 2. So, they were rattled by that, and then not able to beat Goodovin for, all of the games, and then ended up getting absolutely killed. But even then, Dallas didn't win the games by much. Meanwhile, Lightning walked into Game 1 and won the first game 8-2 against the Islanders, so...
Wasn't it 9-2, actually?
No.
But it was 9.
It's not.
Whatever.
So that alone took up 3 games worth of Dallas scoring or something. So I feel like that'll...
Not quite, but...
I feel like you have to give the advantage there to the Lightning overall. Defense? What do you think? It's tough. I think the Lightning are playing surprisingly pretty good defense. Like, overall. Like, Vasilevsky hasn't been
Yeah.
forced to be, like, you know, a world saver or anything.
Well, they have
net.
Sergachev. They have
Hedman.
They have
Shattenkirk.
and they have one other guy.
Cernak. Cernak's really good for them.
They also have Cirelli, who's defensive forward.
Yeah, one of the better ones for sure. Yeah, and then they have all those guys like Killorn and Johnson and Palat and all those two-way guys that can play pretty solid defense as well.
Yeah.
So it's a team effort. They do have the personality that you would think like, oh, that defense should be pretty good.
For sure.
And it is pretty good. I feel like I might give the edge to here to Dallas. They're here because of their defense. Like Heiskanen. Like, if Dallas wins, it's going to be Heiskanen or Goodobin for Conn Smythe. And most likely Heiskanen. Because Goodobin, like, only recently has become, like, huge for Dallas, right? With Bishop injured.
Does that mean that Goodobin will get a big contract, though?
Oh, yeah.
And
That would be worrisome, wouldn't it?
And how much will Heiskanen get paid?
Yeah.
Heiskanen get paid once he's time?
Oh, yeah.
$12 million?
Well, we can talk about that later. But
Like,
it depends on how Heiskanen plays, like, later on. If it's just a playoff
If he
thing.
plays good last year, then next year, then he's going to get, like, an Erik Karlsson.
If he gets
contract.
85 points, that's huge, yeah. That would be insane. And,
get,
like,
like,
long-term, like, 8
he'll get,
years
like-
at, like, $11 million.
Or even more. He'll probably get, like, 12. He'll be the highest paid defenseman in the league, probably.
It's possible, but let's... Okay, so back to the subject at hand, though. So, Dallas's defense, it's like, you know that I'm a big fan of Esa Lindell, who's an absolute horse. John Klingberg, Miro Heiskanen, like, all those guys are playing pretty good for them. Like, Klingberg isn't as noticeable as he used to be.
And then on Tampa, you still have Hedman and all those guys.
Yeah, but I feel like overall team defense, a lot of it is probably due to Goodobin. Like, Vegas was still dominating puck possession and such in the last series. But what?
I would say that Tampa has a better goaltending.
Not in terms of goaltending, who's playing better right now. It's Goodobin because he's had to. So for that reason, I'm actually going to switch my answer and give it to Tampa, because Tampa has given their goalie a lot easier of a time.
I'm not 100% sure. I guess I'll just go with Dallas because of Heiskanen. Because he's been playing like almost like 30 minutes a game, or like 26 minutes a game, which is pretty impressive considering he's like 20 years old.
Okay. And then goaltending. If you had told me at the start of the playoffs the Stars would be here due to Goodobin, I would have absolutely laughed at you. Like, I would have fallen over laughing.
Why? He was a good backup.
He's a good backup. Backup.
No.
Backup.
35
Backup.
game backup.
That is a backup still. That's not a starter.
That's close enough to a starter.
No, it's not.
It's only 20
In
games
what way?
off. 20 games off of a starter.
You have to. In my book, you have to play like at least 50 games to be a starter. That's 15 games off for Goodobin, bro. So no, like I'm.
So you consider?
No, he's
Koskinen
not.
a starter?
No, he's a platoon goalie.
He played 50
No,
games 1 year.
Koskinen's a platoon. Yeah, 1 year. That doesn't make him a starter this year.
And he had terrible numbers.
Yeah, so he's not a starter then.
Okay.
He's not good enough to be a starter. Like.
Hey, whoa. No, I'm joking. I know. He sucks.
Okay,
He's
so.
okay.
Point is, I'm gonna give it to the Stars. Goodobin is playing better than Vasi. If push comes to shove, like, I'd rather Vasi just because, like,
I think
Vasilevsky's just overall the better
I don't
goalie.
really know, because, like, Tampa Bay has the best...
It's which goalie is better and which goalie is playing
Tampa
better.
Bay has the better starter, but
They're also playing better in front of
Dallas
him.
has a way better backup. Ben Bishop is, like, a starter goalie.
Yeah, but Bishop's injured. He's not playing.
Even then, he might be... Is he going to be back in time?
I don't know. But even if he was, I don't think they'd switch Goodobin out right now.
No, I'm just saying. If they don't have Bishop, then I'm giving it to Tampa. I was going to say if they had Bishop, then I might give it to Dallas, but if they don't have Bishop...
I think Bishop's still injured.
Okay, then I'll give it to Dallas. I mean, Tampa, not Dallas.
Well, Tampa, it's tough because we know Vasilevsky is the better goalie, but Vasilevsky, like, the team defense has actually been pretty good in front of him. Vasilevsky hasn't had to play it absolutely amazing, whereas Goodobin has. So we know how well Goodobin's playing. We don't know how well Vasi can play here if push comes to shove. So in terms of, like, who's riding the momentum, it's like Goodobin, but who's the better goalie? We know that's Vasilevsky. So I'm going to call it even for now.
I think I'm going to say Tampa, but when Bishop comes back, then it goes to Dallas. So it's very close.
Okay, intangibles. All right, so I don't think there are like we know Tampa is motivated more than any other team in the league right now to win a cup.
Yeah.
And the Stars.
Well, yeah, the Stars are pretty dang motivated too because they have all these veterans.
The Stars.
This is their last year.
Like, I feel like honestly the X factor for Dallas, you could say Goodobin, that's the obvious choice. I'm gonna go with the less obvious choice and go with Pavelski.
I'm gonna go with Heiskanen.
Okay, but
he's their heart and soul. He's the heart and soul of that team.
No,
he's like the second leading.
No,
scorer
heart and soul is not the best player. Heart and soul is your leader, and Heiskanen is not, in fact.
No, without Heiskanen, they wouldn't be here.
No, Jamie Benn is their heart and soul. Heiskanen's their best player. There's a difference between them. It's like with the Canucks. Petey or Markstrom or whoever, or Hughes or one of those guys is their best player, but Horvat's the straw that stirs the drink. He's their leader, their heart and soul.
Just because they're the captain.
No, but you don't. Yeah, but he's their leader. He's captain for a reason.
But without Heiskanen, he's the second leading scorer.
Yeah, but that doesn't make him your heart and soul. You don't even know what that means.
He plays 26 minutes.
No, you don't even know what that means.
Yes, I do.
No, you don't. What does it mean?
It means that he's the heart and soul. He's literally.
No, that's not.
Without Heiskanen, the Stars would not be here.
Yeah, and without a lot of players, they wouldn't be here.
With the only players that if they got rid of, like, say, even Pavelski, they still might be here. But if they got rid of Heiskanen, then they would not be here, period. He's the best player in the playoffs.
If you remove that Radulov, they're not here right now, because he's the one that eliminated Vegas.
Somebody else might have scored that goal.
In theory,
and they
you
had
can say
two more games that they could have scored that goal in.
In theory. But you can't guarantee that. So that's what I'm saying, is that you can't just say, oh, like, the Stars wouldn't be here without Heiskanen. If Heiskanen hadn't been playing, one of the other defensemen could have picked up the slack. You don't know that.
Is playing great.
That's what I'm saying, though. You don't know that. You can't say, like, oh, the Stars wouldn't be here without Heiskanen. Because maybe if Heiskanen had been injured or something, like a defenseman they call up or something, like a Michael Kempney situation, he just comes in, that guy goes off and he carries your team. Mm-hmm. You don't know that. Like, you don't know, like, a team can just...
I know this much. He's great defensively. He's playing 26 minutes a game, and he's the second leading scorer in the playoffs.
I'm aware of
that discussion.
Okay. Still doesn't make him your heart and soul.
You can argue with the numbers, but the statistics don't.
I'm not arguing numbers. I'm talking about leadership and such.
Anyways.
He's 20 years old. Okay.
Moving on.
So, X Factor for me is Joe Pavelski. And this is because Pavelski's probably motivated more than anyone on their roster to win a cup at this point in his career. Like, he's come close a few times with the Sharks, so, like, he's tasted that before. And he's playing pretty well right now. He had a bit of a slump in the Vegas series, but he was playing really well in the Colorado one, and he came up huge for them in many different moments. If he can continue this, and he can lead the second line against Tampa's second line, which probably isn't as good because they've loaded up their first line, then that could be a huge depth advantage for Dallas. And then coaching, I actually just found out this is the very first time in a Cup Final. It's a head coach versus his former assistant coach. Because Rick Bowness was originally an assistant coach for Cooper on the Lightning. So that's the first time that's ever happened. I think you have to give coaching to Cooper. Like, Bowness has only been head coaching like half a year, but Cooper's been doing it for years. And so, like, they've been here before. You know, that core really wants to win a cup. So I don't
know.
I feel like coaching goes to Cooper.
Cooper had all these chances, and with this great team, but
it's the team that's. Yeah, but you can't blame the coach when your team doesn't play well. Like, honestly...
The coach does have something to do with it.
A coach can't make players play well, though. He can't just walk up to a guy like Kucherov and just say, you better play well or else. It's not going to make him play well.
The only guy that can do that is Tortorella.
Oh, yeah. Because Tortorella could just, like, smack a player around. Or just swear at them relentlessly.
He would find a way.
Oh, yeah. He would find a way.
They would die the next day or something.
Most coaches aren't Tortorella. So,
anyways.
That's my point. And then X Factor on the Lightning... There are many different X factors on the Lightning, honestly. Like,
the whole team just has to keep playing as they did.
Yeah, basically. Like, I'd give it to, like, maybe Cirelli, because similar to Pavelski, like, just bring out that depth and win that depth battle for Tampa.
Yeah, but...
So, Cup prediction? Who's going to win it this year?
In 6 games.
I got that too, man. Tampa in 6. Okay, guys, you heard it here first. The weirdest year possible is going to have the not weirdest team winning the cup ever. Unless Dallas wins it.
Moving on to the Eric Stahl trade.
Conn Smythe candidates now. Because that's still going on the topic. Alright, so...
Well, that's an easy one for me.
Name 3 from each team. 3 candidates from each team. Just do it.
Mine. Golovin, Heiskanen, and...
I'd say Pavelski.
Sure. And then... Do we agree on those 3 from Dallas?
Yeah.
And then on Tampa...
I have Point.
Yeah.
Hedman.
Hedman and Kucherov.
I don't know the stats of some of their other...
He's had like a 5-point game against...
Okay, if you say so.
We'll
So, I think the most likely one to win on Tampa is for sure Point. And then on Dallas, it's Heiskanen.
Yeah.
And overall, it depends on who's going to win the cup. If Tampa wins it, it's going to be Point. If Dallas wins it, it's going to be Heiskanen.
Even if Tampa does
No,
win?
Heiskanen is not going to get the Conn Smythe unless he goes absolutely bonkers and they still lose. He'd have to play better than he is right now.
Well,
no, he would have to play better.
He can't play any better than he is right now.
No,
he's averaging
he would have
over
to.
a point per game.
Yeah, but he would still have to. They're not going to give him the... His Point is, like, higher points per game average. Point's playing really well. He's logging a lot of ice time. Like, he's doing a lot of the same things Heiskanen is.
Just not quite as good.
So...
Heiskanen is also a defenseman.
Heiskanen is not way better than Point or anything like that in these playoffs. Enough to actually earn him the Conn Smythe if they lose. It's if they win that he'll get it.
All right.
Moving on now to, as we said, the Eric Stahl trade. So we just wanted to quickly mention this, and then we'll do a few signings.
Is Minnesota's GM on drugs or something? Like, why would he make that trade?
Yeah,
Dumbest trade. They're one actually good center.
Eric Stahl for Marcus Johansson, by the way, guys.
And Johansson has more salary, is terrible, and less points.
Also, really injury prone too.
Yeah, well, because in 60 games, Johansson had 9 goals and 30 points or something, or maybe 11 goals, versus Eric Stahl had 47 points in 64 games. So which numbers?
Granted, Stahl's contract expires in a year.
So does Johansson's.
Okay, so the salary thing isn't super important. You would think they'd be able to get something better for Stahl. This is a big win for Buffalo because now they have their temporary number 2 center. He's not going to last very long there.
I feel like Eric Stahl is worth a second-round pick. I think they should have gotten a second-round pick.
If you think about it, though, Stahl can play the second-line center role temporarily. Middlestat can grow in that number 3 center role, and then maybe Middlestat's ready for the number 2 role by the time Stahl retires or leaves.
My personal
just
opinion,
not good enough for it.
I think Middlestat is probably a bust, but it's
a lot of people say that about Puljujärvi, so.
He is only 21. Yep. Whatever can be a bust. I feel like Middlestat is probably a bust. Cool.
It's too early to tell. And Middlestat still has that really high potential that he had. Finish first in Future Watch 1 year. So.
What do you think of Jonas Brodin?
No, oh my goodness, that was a terrible signing. So, what was this? It was, 7 years and $6 million a year? Oh my goodness. What is he, 30? I think he's 30.
27.
Oh, he's 27. Okay, well.
Fun
Up until he's 34, $6 million, he's already not a really good player in my opinion.
Actually, no. He's signed for 8 more years. Because he was UFA next year, so
35. 8 more years. Oh,
so,
gosh.
Fun fact, this year he had 28 points, his best offensive year.
Yeah, but he's a defensive guy.
His worst defensive year.
What? We're recording.
Mommy's going.
Okay. We're recording.
Are you gonna say goodbye?
Seriously? You stopped our recording.
I'm dead.
Seriously?
He already left.
She already left. Okay, I can cut this all out.
Something important was actually happening.
Yeah, no kidding. I did too. Okay, so where did we leave off here?
The Jonas Brodin signing. I feel like Jonas Brodin is kind of like a garbage kind of player. He signed for 8 more years. Terrible.
Worst defensive year, terrible on offense.
And offense wasn't like it made up. Like if he had like 50 points, then maybe. But like it's not, or he was on pace maybe. But freaking 7 years. Come on, give him like a 4-year, $5 million contract is what he deserves.
No,
That.
even less than that.
No.
Well, if he
played
played terrible defensively this year and wasn't good offensively either, so
they would have had to pay him at least 4.5.
So then why didn't they let him go?
So Minnesota, fun fact, now you have to get rid of Dumba. Congratulations.
Yeah, they have to get rid of someone
Or
with
they have
salary.
to pay somebody to take on Suter.
Or Parisi.
But people don't really want to take those contracts.
No one wants to take the Suter either.
Like Suter, how many years is, like they're both signed for freaking $7.5 million until they're like
they're dead.
for like 5 more years per season.
I know,
He's already
right?
like 36.
Why would a team sign 2 guys like that such a long term? Like, were they getting insane offers from like Nashville, New Jersey, respectively? Like, what made Minnesota decide to pay those guys that much and give them that long? It's not the pay so much as how long the deal is, you know?
Yeah, like Parisi was worth it a few years ago.
Oh yeah, easy. And
Well, his best
he's
years
starting,
were-
he's starting to do better now.
His best years were with New Jersey though.
Oh yeah,
Wasn't
but
that the team he played with?
Yeah.
He had like a 90-point season, so he was easily worth.
well, you
7.
could say the same. Yeah, well, Suter for most of the contract has been worth $7 million. He lasted a lot longer, but Parisi is starting to like come back a little bit. Still not worth $7 million, but at
He got
least
61 points last year.
yeah, at least he's contributing now, right?
He's like he's still worth like $6 million, so he's just an overpaid second liner.
Which
For a
a lot of teams have worse. So
A lot of teams have guys like
now that
Eriksson.
Brodin,
Neil is an overpaid middle 6 guy. Neil's
Yeah.
still middle 6.
Lucic is getting paid pretty.
Yeah, but the thing with see the difference between Neil and Lucic is a middle is a bottom is like a bottom 6 guy. At least
Yep.
Neil's a middle 6. Like Neil would be worth $3.5 million in free agency. Lucic would get $1 million or like $700K.
Mhm.
So yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. So overall, we don't like the Brodin signing. So let's go into.
Garbage.
So let's do into what Minnesota's going to have to trade and what the trade will look like. I know you have some ideas for that already.
Dumba for Nylander, final deal. Just happened today. No, I'm joking.
No. It may as well, though. We think it's perfect. The only thing is that Nylander probably has more value than Dumba at this point.
So the Wild throws in a second-round pick in there. That's good.
Yeah, so just Wild add a little more value.
Second,
and then
for a third-round pick.
That's perfect because Dumba is an offensive, defensive, physical, right shot, minute muncher defenseman.
Minute muncher.
Literally, he's a younger version of Drew Doughty, which a few years ago people were saying how Drew Doughty would be absolutely perfect, but he would cost way too much. Dumba is literally a younger version of Drew Doughty. If he wasn't injured, he would be producing like Drew Doughty. He plays like Drew Doughty. So a guy that can play like Drew Doughty, and it's just going to cost you Nylander. Nylander's a really good player, but they have guys on offense. The only thing is that once they do that trade,
Or do they want to do Tavares for Nylander? I mean,
Tavares
for Dumba.
Tavares has a no-trade clause. That's not an option. Not unless he's willing to waive it, and I severely doubt he is. He could have taken more money to go back with the Islanders or even the Sharks. So he went to Toronto specifically because he likes Toronto more. So guys like that, like Stammer is another example of that. Like they generally don't waive the no-trade clauses. So Tavares isn't going to waive it. But the only thing is that now at right wing, and actually both wings, Toronto is going to have some issues with, Marner's going to be your major right winger, which is fine.
He's a really good guy.
Yeah, he is. You have depth on left wing. You don't have a number one guy, but you do have lots of depth. You have Janssen, Hyman, Mikheyev. Nick Robertson plays either wing as well.
On the other side,
and if they did this trade, Robertson would guaranteed be playing next year. He's already almost a lock. If Nylander got traded, it would be a lock. He'd probably be getting, a top six role. Leafs would at least try him out there, because he has some really good offensive talent.
Try him on the top line with Tavares.
That's not the top line.
Or Tavares and...
No, not Tavares. It's Matthews and Marner.
Yeah, you thought that they didn't play together, though.
No, they do.
But whatever.
They do. So the offense would basically look like you got Hyman, Matthews, and Marner, and then you probably got Robertson playing, and then I don't know who's playing right wing on the Tavares line. So you got
Confident? No.
so you got 5 solid
Maybe.
guys there,
Not confident.
but you're
That's
missing
somebody.
but you're missing a few. Like,
Probably McKay.
yeah, you could play. I mean, if you wanted Janssen on his off wing, you could play him there as well.
No, McKay was better than him.
So and then you could have Janssen and Kerfoot leading the third line, which is just fine. Like, you can just insert just about anyone on that
Hopefully
third line.
Kerfoot
And then the
can
fourth
come
line would
back
just
to
be
his
an
own.
army of grounders, right? Or grinders, right?
Yeah, I think they should pick up a guy like, say, Thornton or something.
Yeah.
Chara.
Thornton would come for like minimum wage,
What about
probably.
Chara?
No. Actually,
Load
yeah,
up on a-
I could see that if
load
he
up-
if he didn't want to go back to Boston. But really, would Chara go from Boston to his arch rival after playing in Boston for like what 12 years or something?
No. If Toronto, maybe Toronto loads up on some veterans, they load up on like Thornton and
Yeah,
Chara,
like
and
they
then-
did with Marlowe earlier, but they signed too much.
and then also grab Marlowe again, and then try to go on a cup run.
Yeah, just have Thornton and Marlowe lead the way.
And Chara can like be 6'9". Chara.
Yeah, Thornton. Yeah, and the thing is that that's gonna be cheap. Thornton's gonna do like minimum wage.
Same with Marlowe.
I mean, no, Thornton would probably cost a little more than minimum wage, but he'd be cheap.
Thornton would be $1 million. Chara would probably be 1.5.
Marlowe would be
and Marlowe
minimum
would be
wage.
minimum wage.
Yeah,
Minimum wage.
Minimum wage, yeah.
$700K.
that's still more than our parents make in like 10 years. So,
Moving on to the Joel Edmondson signing.
okay,
I feel like it wasn't a terrible signing. I don't know.
all right. So relay the signing.
$3.5 million for 4 years, which he was okay this year. He got like 22
Yeah.
points.
It's
He's
not
okay
like
defensively.
yeah.
I think he's a pretty good defenseman for that top.
Who has his rights
Player.
now? Because they've been thrown around a lot, so I'm not really sure who
The
has his
Canadians
rights.
signed him.
Yeah, that's right. The Canadians have him now. So I think that's a really good signing. He can be like a really good number 4 D-man, defensive D-man, which is just fine. Like the Canadians already have offense covered on the right side with Weber and Petrie, so they just need more defense. So they have a pretty solid like 3 now with Weber, Petrie, and Edmondson. And then I don't know who do you think their fourth line fourth guy should be?
Sherrod.
Yeah, I mean Sherratt.
Isn't terrible.
No, he's not terrible.
defensive.
Ideally, you don't want him playing in that role, but
He's not. No, number 4 defenseman.
no,
Yeah. He's
no,
good defensively.
not ideal though. It's
No.
not your absolute ideal to have him in
No,
your
he's
top
a top 4 defender.
No.
He's a middle caliber. He's a middle of the pack.
Bro, you could
Number
pay
4
you
defensive.
could pay Sherratt minimum wage and it wouldn't shock anyone. If you're paying a guy minimum wage
Yeah.
and it's not going to shock anyone, then he's
I
not
don't
a
think so.
top
I think
4
I think
D-man.
he's underrated, but especially because he's more defensive rather than offensive.
Yeah.
He's pretty good
Okay.
defensively, but offensively.
Yeah,
he's
guys that are more
good.
defensive generally get overshadowed, like Edmondson and like I think guys like Slavin and
Slavin's
Vlasic a few years ago for the Sharks.
Slavin has
examples of
a
that.
good offensive year this year, so I think he's gotten more.
Yeah, but he's
Maybe
still not
after-
getting any love for his defense,
I
and
don't
I
know.
don't think a defensive D-man is ever gonna really win like the Norris Trophy or anything like that. I couldn't see Slavin ever doing that. What?
Yeah, but I mean, I think that's all we were going to talk about today, right?
I did want to mention one more thing. I read an interesting article on Sportsnet.
You read an interesting article on Sportsnet. What did you read on Sportsnet?
The likelihood of every Canadian team to win the cup. So, who do you think? So, who do you think does that list?
Edmonton,
Or who makes-
Toronto. So number 1 would probably be Toronto. Number
Yeah,
2
which is kind
number
of
2
concerning.
would be Colorado.
Colorado's not
Colorado,
a Canadian team. Edmonton.
No, Calgary. Number 3
Calgary.
would be Edmonton or Vancouver, and then number 4 would be the other one. And I feel like, and then if it was if it was a future one, then Ottawa would be really high up there.
Vancouver would be second for me.
No.
Yeah. So I'm gonna
Vancouver's
change this
4.
list from not likelihood to winning the cup, just likelihood to winning it in the next 5 years, because I don't think any Canadian team has like a major shot at the cup next year.
Toronto's
So in the
only
next
one.
5 years,
Toronto,
Yeah.
Edmonton.
Edmonton's not gonna make a cup run though. Neither's Toronto. Like Toronto, if they got out of the first round, that would be a success for them. So
Toronto has the roster to do it. They just don't freaking.
yeah, they just don't do it, bro.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think first for me, I agree, it's Ottawa. They have a very bright future over there. Number 2.
Easy gonna win a cup, probably. Hopefully, it'd be a disappointment if they didn't.
Number 2, there are quite a few teams here because Canada's future is really bright in terms of NHL teams. Vancouver's up there. Edmonton's up there. You could choose a lot of different teams
Number
for that
2
choice.
is Toronto, for sure.
How is it Toronto? Who do they have coming up?
It's not who do they have coming up, it's who do they have now.
Yeah, well, they already have all those players now, and look what they've done.
They got a lot of those players.
They haven't gotten out of the first round.
Most of those players are only going to get better. A lot of them have.
Matthews is like at his peak right now. Marner is also at his peak right now. Nylander's getting to it right now. Tavares is starting to get past his prime right now. Riley's in his prime. All these guys are in their prime right now. Until they can get out of the first round, I'm not going to have them super high. Because they don't have guys coming up that's going to help them.
Last year, yet a lot of people still thought they could win the cup this year.
Yeah, Tampa's a different beast, though. Because Tampa doesn't have, like, this culture of losing, and they have defense. They didn't have, like, a glaring team weakness. It was all...
Toronto has defense. Their
Toronto
defense just doesn't play defense.
Well, then it's useless. Then they don't have defense.
Basically, for defenders, it's like, oh, yeah, I'm going to Toronto. Okay.
They have Riley, Muzzin.
I'm just going to go out there with a big baseball bat.
May as well.
I'm joining the Blue Jays.
Oh, yeah. There you go.
Sorry, guys, I'm not playing on your
I'm going to
team.
grab a basketball and go to the Raptors. Yeah, so... Overall, I think I'm going to give this very slight edge to... I want to say Vancouver or I want to say Edmonton. Edmonton, I think Vancouver has the higher potential on offense.
Whoa.
And then Vancouver has the better... and then Edmonton has the better potential on defense.
By a long shot.
No, not by a long shot.
By a long
no,
shot.
they
Yes.
just do. They just
They have,
do.
like, one of
That's
the
it.
best
That's it.
brightest
Quiet.
Let me say what
Quiet.
I'm going to say. Let
No,
me say it.
I'm already saying something. You quiet down.
No.
Quiet.
Let me say what I want to say.
No, wait.
Fine.
You wait. You'll get your shot. And then in goaltending, I think at least you can say for Vancouver, like, goaltending is not even close. Edmonton has, like, no one really good coming
Except
up.
for Ilya Konolov. He actually
He's
is looking really good in the KHL right now.
Yeah, so that's going
So
to be,
maybe in, like, 2 or 3 years he could be a starter.
It depends on how long his KHL contract is. That's ironclad. He's not going to be able to break it. He's going to have to wait until it expires. And then he's probably going to have to spend another year in the AHL. So that's 4 years minimum. And then he's going to be a rookie goalie who's not ready to just lead a team to a cup. So in terms of, like, goaltending, I give that to Vancouver for sure. So I'm going to give Vancouver second place.
Still be a starter.
Vancouver second place.
Who's first?
Ottawa. And then Edmonton gets the third place spot. Toronto fourth.
But Edmonton will see.
Edmonton doesn't have the offensive advantage, and goaltending is by a mile. Vancouver.
You know what though? I think
point.
Edmonton might be able to make up for goaltending because of their awesome defense that they're gonna have. They probably have the brightest future in the league on defense.
Yeah. No.
They have Dmitry Samokov. They have.
No one knows who that is,
Bouchard, all coming up.
I know that.
Samokov is probably not, like, the reason people don't know him.
I factored this all in, but Vancouver also has really good guys coming up.
Not to
Hughes
mention-
has higher potential than anyone Edmonton's
One
got.
defenseman, not defensively though. He's not going to be that good defensively. He's going to be like an Erik Karlsson.
No, yeah, but except that Karlsson wins Norris trophies, and he's actually underrated defensively. So, because Hughes, if Hughes is going to be like a possession driver, the best defense is when the other team doesn't even get the puck.
The best defense is in offense.
Yeah, and Hughes is higher offensively by a mile than any defenseman.
Not by a mile, but
yes, at least by 30 points. Hughes could reach point per game.
Points.
Hughes could reach point per game in his career.
And
Heiskanen is doing it in this year's playoffs, and he doesn't have nearly the offensive ceiling Hughes does. So I'm just saying, bro, like, Hughes is going to be the best defenseman out of anyone you named on Edmonton. Livy could still be coming up, Woo, and then Vancouver's going to focus on drafting more defensemen in the coming years because offense is good with Pujols and Hodlander adding on to the core they already have. And then goaltending, we obviously know is fine, even without Markstrom. We have Demko and then DiPietro's coming up, so...
The thing is, this year, what they don't have is their main problem, is they don't have any draft picks really this year.
They don't, that's
true. They don't have
true.
a first round, they don't have a second round, so...
Oh, no, wait, in futures, Montreal's second. I forgot about Montreal completely. They have to be second. Center is absolutely loaded. They have They have an excellent goaltending prospect.
Suzuki is like a future Hart Trophy candidate, pretty much.
Possibly,
He's
yeah.
Gonna be
he's a baby Bergeron. Scouts say that about him all the time.
He's gonna be better than freaking Bergeron because Bergeron played good for the first few years of his career and then shut off.
No, not defensively. He shut down offensively for those years.
Suzuki's gonna be great. He's already playing on the penalty kill.
Yeah, not to mention you have Paling and Kotkaniemi coming up too.
And you still have Domi.
And then you have you have Primo on goaltending.
And Deneau is like the Canadians have Deneau, which is a really
And also
good
Montreal
trade
has
piece.
what, 12 draft picks this year? Like they have tons of draft picks
They have
this year.
they have like a bazillion. They have 4 second-round picks.
Yeah, they have a ridiculous
They're
amount
gonna
of.
just get all the guys in the second round. Although they,
I hope they start stockpiling on defense.
You know what I think they should do?
Oh no, and also Romanov on D too. He's gonna be insane.
Who do you think would want to know? He's worth a first round pick.
Yeah, no, I agree with that for sure. Who would want him? I feel like a guy like, or I feel like a team like Toronto would, if they could afford him,
Their
of course.
third line center.
Well, I don't know. You asked me what team would want him. It didn't have to be
Every
realistic.
team in the league would want him. Actually, no, realistically, like I'm thinking, like they could if they traded him before the draft to get like a first round pick, who would want him? What about Buffalo?
I can see Buffalo wanting him for sure. But then Middlestad's playing like fourth line center. So you'd probably transition him to wing then, right?
Yeah.
Deneau's got enough. He could handle that second line position for a while. So.
Well, they'd have to resign him, but he's only getting like.
Yeah, that's fine.
Deneau's not quite worth 8th overall on his own, but if the Canadians could find a way to get 8th overall, that'd be pretty good for them.
Oh yeah, like they need that.
They would like it.
Well, yeah, of course they would like it.
Then they could draft a really good player. Like Deneau almost gets them there, but I feel like Deneau's more worth like a pick like Edmonton.
Does
like
Buffalo want to trade that pick though? Buffalo has Cousins coming up as well too. At the center position.
I feel like Buffalo wants to make the playoffs now just to make their fans happy because they're losing so many fans.
Yeah, they
I feel
are.
like they want to make the playoffs this year, even if
They do.
are first round fodder. So, and I think that they have so many
Just to
prospects
get
already.
there.
They have so many prospects already, though.
Well, who? Who do they have?
Middlestat.
Middlestad's
Cousins,
not a prospect. He's been playing in the
Dahleen.
NHL like 3 years.
I'm talking about.
Dahleen is not a prospect either.
Sorry, not prospects. Young guys that are up and coming that are really good.
Yeah, well then you can include Eichel in that.
Yeah,
He's
but
young
their
enough.
team is really. I feel like they don't necessarily need that draft pick. I think they'd be willing to sacrifice that draft
They don't
pick.
necessarily, but like, and then they have Pekka Lukkinen, who's a solid goaltending prospect coming up as well. They need a goalie. If they're gonna make if they're gonna make the playoffs, they need to sign a goalie this year.
I think a trade could be sent.
Get Markey or get Lehner or one of those guys out of free agency.
I think a trade.
Or what if Vegas traded Fleury to Buffalo?
We're not on the subject. What if the trade was Deneau, and what would the Canadians be also willing to give for 8th overall?
For 8th overall?
Because Deneau gets them almost there, but they need something like something similar to.
You
like
could
a
do
third.
one of your second round picks. They have enough.
Probably their lowest second round pick. I would say.
They have 4. They'd be willing to go like 2 of them if they
I
had to.
think they have Dallas's. I say Dallas's. They'd give out.
Okay. Well, yeah,
Dallas
that's like
and Deneau.
that's basically a third.
Dallas and Deneau. Dallas second round pick and Deneau.
No, I don't think Buffalo takes that because
I
that's
think Buffalo
basically
would.
a third round pick. Because it's like at the tail end of the second round. It's like when you say, "Oh, I'm gonna trade you Tampa's first overall pick or first round pick." It's like 31st overall. It's basically a second rounder. So it's like that's basically a third.
But then
It is basically a third rounder.
But then people also say that some like Ottawa's second round pick is basically a first round pick.
Well, yeah, that's true.
So it goes both ways. But I feel
It
like or
does.
maybe a slightly higher second round pick, but I feel like that'd be enough. Anyways, I think we should end this. What do you think?
Yeah, sure. This is the J&J Hockey Podcast. I'm Joshua.
I'm just
Bringing you, signing off. Bye-bye.